off we go.
He became master of the comeback.
He's in trouble. He can run to the left side. Tebow's going to run to the 5, and Denver's got a touchdown.
And remained a servant to his Lord.
I stand up for what I believe, and I'm never shy about that.
The polarizing Denver quarterback appears to be winning the fascination of the sporting world.
By taking a knee, his star rose on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook.
If you haven't heard of Tim Tebow, then you're obviously somewhere waiting for the Navy SEALs to rescue you.
And on the red carpet.
Tim inside the NFL? Inside the NFL, the show the pros.
Just walks by. No love.
I just got Tebowed.
Now, in New York, he's the most famous backup in sports. We've never seen anyone like Tim Tebow, but we've seen several quarterbacks who embody the different parts of his life. The man of faith, the outsider, the jack of all trades, the quarterback within, the superstar. This show is about their football lives and his. These are the faces of Tim Tebow. Coming up on The Faces of Tebow, A Football Life.
I was always viewed as unconventional, and so is Tim Tebow. When you don't fit the mold, it messes with their heads.
The 5 quarterbacks who've shared Tim Tebow's fame.
He's better prepared than I was by a long shot.
His game.
I've been very critical, and I feel I have the right to be because I was that style of player.
His faith.
Are you saving yourself for marriage? There's many, many people that really admire it. The big thing is that Tim is living it.
His future.
He has the natural throwing talent to actually be efficient and be good at it, and then possibly great at it.
Tim, a lot of athletes can't handle New York. What equips you to deal with the demands, the challenges, and the circus that may come to town?
I think Tim's prepared better than anyone that's gone in there in this kind of situation. Dealing with the media, dealing with endorsements, dealing with requests for your time. He's better prepared than I was by a long shot.
Going to be very interesting to see.
Joe, we spoke earlier in the week about how exciting the bubble is for us. From a spectator's point of view, there is so much excitement, there is so much tension. For many people,
Evans is a huge hand. It's almost a trap, given Adrian opens the button.
Okay, very nicely done, but it didn't work out for him that time. And then in the next hand we're about to watch here, Peters is bluffed off a hand when he could have been the one that perhaps could have done the bluffing at the end here.
Yeah, and it's, you know, not a surprise that we see Mateos involved in this hand with Peters. If there is somebody who could possibly bluff Peters off a hand, it's probably Adrian.
We've seen Peters open with less than premium hands under the gun so many times, and that's exactly what he did here.
Yeah, and of course, he probably expected that Mateos is going to defend a wide range from the big blind, even against Peters under the gun open. And here Mateos turns an open-ended, Mateos turns a gut shot straight draw, and the flop went check-check, which I think Peters was trying to pot control. Obviously, he has no spade, so he doesn't really want to get check raised on this board. He wants to try to go to showdown fairly cheaply, but Mateos knows that unless the turn connects with Peters, it's very likely Mateos can blow him off this hand with a semi-bluff, but the very interesting thing here is the sizing.
That was a big bet, wasn't it? Overbet.
Yeah, it's a huge overbet because he knows that whatever value type hands Peters checks back on the flop can't really withstand such a big turn bet, especially when it looks like Mateos is setting him up for a pot-sized river shove on the river based on the sizing.
So Peters raises under the gun. You know, he's obviously trying to take control of the table. When the flop comes down and Mateos has obviously defended in the big blind, why does Peters not simply fire out a continuation bet? Why did he slow down?
Well, he has showdown value when he flops middle pair, and I think he is, like I said, just trying to pot control. If he bets and gets check raised in that spot, he won't be able to show down profitably with his actual hand. And he knows that Adrian's a very aggressive player and will put him in those tough spots.
Okay, we've got one more hand of Peters' misfortune, I guess, from this level here. And this is just a tale of two kickers, isn't it?
Yeah. Jonathan West, who has been very aggressive throughout the tournament, not only with his pre-flop raising, but also with his, you know, relentless continuation bet. And if Peters has watched the coverage at all, seen the whole cards, seen the way that Jonathan plays, on the turn, he has to call. I mean, he has, you know, kings and fives with a 10 kicker. If Jonathan bets this turn, he's pretty much only representing aces, ace-king, king-queen. Because he's not going to bet queens, jacks, tens. He's not going to bet those hands on the turn after David check calls, especially with the 5 on the turn.
What he does, though, is check calls right the way down every single street. And you end up thinking, could he have taken a more aggressive line here?
I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that this came on the river because now Peters thinks that if West bets again, this is essentially the top of Peters' range. And he, you know, I don't really think that against somebody like West, who has shown that he will continuation bet flops without actually hitting the flop a very high percentage of the time, it's very hard to fold, even to 3 barrels. And you see, you know, David doesn't take too long of a time to make this call. And you would have to think that it is slightly opponent-based, you know, against an opponent who maybe he hasn't seen bluff, who he really doesn't feel like has gotten out of line. He might actually take some time to consider this triple barrel. But, I mean, unfortunately, sometimes even as a chip leader coming into the day or at your table and with the skill set that Peters has, you do lose momentum in these situations, and it's all about how he's going to bounce back from that.
Yeah, West did well there to milk his opponent, I guess. That is the beauty of the chip leader. Yes, they have all the chips, but then they have all the chips. You can take them off them, can't you?
Yeah, and I think what we'll see from David, especially, you know, after this break, is he's going to regroup, and I think he's still going to come back strong. I would not count David Peters out, even though he's lost some chips that level.
You have to be mentally tough, don't you, when you've gone through a session or a level where you started off here and you're down to here. It's much better to be on the upward trajectory as you get nearer and nearer to the final table.
Yeah, but you can't look at how many chips you have. You should always just play in relation to the big blinds, in relation to how much post-flop play you have with your stack. This is a really great structure. You just can't be stuck on the idea of, oh, well, I had this many chips, and now I have to try to get them back. You just have to play with what's in front of you.
Do you, when you're approaching a final table, do you have it in your mind that I would like to get to this table with, you know, around this amount of chips ideally? And if you feel like you're getting towards the final table and you are short, you think, no, I'm gonna start making moves now so that I get to the final table in good shape?
I don't think I ever set up those goals within a tournament in terms of this is how many chips I would like by this level, by this day, by this time, by this stage in the tournament. I think David Peters actually said himself in an interview that he takes each hand as it comes, and I think as a professional, that's what you have to do is in this hand, how many chips do you have in relation to the big blind to start with? What are the stack sizes around you, and then you play that situation individually.
Do you know what, Maria? Do you know why we know that you know what you're talking about when it comes to poker? Because you picked out Corey Aldemir as the guy to win this tournament, and out of nowhere in this session, he's come roaring back on the second table. He is crushing it right now. That is, you've got to be happy that he's vindicated your spot there.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew enough to maybe buy a piece of Korai before the tournament started. Yeah, I mean, Korai was 4th on the Player of the Year race in 2017. He is one of the Germans.
Yeah, he's 11th on the all-time German list.
Yeah, and they're obviously well known for not only their very game theory optimal play, but having a really strong mindset like you were speaking of. I think they really take all the emotion out of poker. Some might say they play poker a bit robotic, but in this game, I think you need to do that.
Okay, let's have a look at the crucial hand for him here, which was the set over set we saw just shortly before we broke for play here on the secondary table. Christian Rudolph, the sevens guy under the gun +1, raised it up. We got 4 callers. He got checked around on the flop, but Aldemir had hit a set of 9s on that flop. Buchanan had turned a set of 3s. Just called him though on the turn, which is odd from Buchanan. Yeah. It was a huge pot for Aldemir, just under 4 million.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a little bit unfortunate for Buchanan that the flop did get checked around because he would have folded his 3s on the flop, but then when you hit a set on the turn, he did end up going into check calling mode because the flush did come in on the river. So I feel like Buchanan could have lost a bit more. Either way, that was kind of a setup hand, but seeing some of the other.
He's got pocket deuces in this situation. David V.I. Peters, ace-10. Come on. He is all in over the top from the small blind.
This may look like a huge shove, but it's because David Peters is shoving for the effective stack size. Notice Adrian started with about 30 big blinds. So there he's shoving for 30 big blinds. Also notice Tidov in the big blind also has shorter than that. So it's not a 50 big blind all in, it's just a 30 big blind all in.
Not all of his chips were at risk. That's what they call the effective stack, being the most amount of damage you could get done. Now we do have outer table action happening, and we do expect there to be a little bit more action, a little bit more all-ins going on over there, as it is a table of haves and have-nots. The have being Corey Aldemir. He's not involved in this hand, however, I don't believe. We've got Bartosz Stazovic all in at risk with King-Queen against Sean Buchanan's 9s. It is a race. 9s are holding like a Bahama Mama versus a Pina Colada. One of these two hands has a slight mathematical advantage. Buchanan's 9s looking pretty good to eliminate Stazovic. Ace hits no one.
Sean Buchanan.
Sean Buchanan.
He flies under the radar so well.
He really does. I did not even notice his name still alive in this tournament until today, till the final 16. Bartosz Stazovic out in 13th place.
He seems to almost never have a big stack. He knows how to play a big stack well. I've played against him when he's had a big stack, but for some reason, I think he's just a little bit on the tighter side. And he ends up surviving and making deep runs very, very often. And when he does get a hold of chips, though, be careful, because he'll get you. So Peters again. This time, he can't justify going all in, though, because notice Maria will be in the big blind, and she has more chips than David. So if he wants to go all in now, it would be for his entire 50 big blind stack. And you don't want to open yourself up.
He would be the effective stack.
Well, it's kind of weird. Effective stack is an interesting term because when Mateos raises and Peters re-raises, sometimes he's going to be playing the 30 big blind stack of Mateos, but other times he's going to be playing the 50 big blind stack when Maria decides to hop in. So you never really know exactly what stack size you're playing in situations, and that's why poker's a difficult game. Usually, he's going to be playing the 30 big blind stack, but sometimes when Maria comes along, it's going to be for 50.
Well, Maria is thinking long and hard about coming along with her ace-10.
This is a pretty reasonable bluffing hand. Anytime you have the ace as the big stack, you should at least consider it. I don't know if she will.
So you're saying consider a 4-bet bluff here?
Yeah.
And not just playing ace-10 on its own merits?
Yeah, don't call with it. I'm a big fan of not calling 3-bets with much of anything. And she does decide to fold. Maybe she wants to use hands like ace-jack there as a block. Maybe ace-queen, because those have even better blockers. The queen is a relevant blocker.
Wow.
Here we go.
Adrian decides to move all in and gets called by Peters. Not even a flip. 9's a big favorite, and we know that one ace has been folded.
That ace-3 suited all-in may look quite aggressive, but remember, David Peters has been playing pretty aggressively against Mateos, and ace-3 suited is a hand that usually does okay when you go all in and get called.
27% chance Mateos survives this. Just lost a player on the secondary table. 73% chance we lose a player from the main feature table.
Wow.
Ace on the flop. That is gonna look very, very good. Buenos dias, Adrian.
Twice Mateos has spiked an ace with ace-3 today.
Now this hand is not over yet. 5 on the turn. Peters is looking for a 9 and only a 9. Otherwise, Mateos is going to double up. Queen on the river, so Mateos does double up, and David Peters now the shortest stack at this table.
This has not been David Peters' day so far.
It really hasn't, and through no real fault of his own.
I think it's...
Man, oh man.
When Daniela is dealing, it's impossible to lose from.
Ace-3 is Mateos' hand, apparently. You like the ace-3, Joe?
No,
No?
sure don't.
You don't? I like it okay. Someone in the Twitch chat said, what a mistake to go all in with ace-3 suited there. It may seem like it, but you do need to have perhaps some bluffs in your range. Sometimes you don't need bluffs when you're always going to get called, but there is plenty of room to make D. Peters fold if you go all in. So you do need to at least consider some bluffs. And the best bluffs often end up being suited aces or suited connectors. As you see, though, David Peters is going to just remain composed, keep playing his best poker, and that's one of the things that does make him one of the best. He doesn't ever get rattled, even when things are going horribly wrong.
Well, Adrian Mateos is a good example of how just being patient and not giving up. Less than half what David Peters has got now.
So 11-61, and the blinds have gone up. That's a pretty nice day for Adrian Mateos.
Actions folded around to Maria Lampropoulos. I love Lamp in the small blind.
Do you like the Queen 5 offsuit? Is that one of your favorite hands?
Also no.
I mean, what cards are you looking for if you don't want to play these?
Aces.
Mm.
You ever heard of Big Slick?
Every time,
It's an ace and a king.
Yep, like that one. Queen suited. These are the hands I like to play.
Okay, okay. So you're a nit, basically. I find that hard to believe.
I'm quite
I think
nitty.
you'd be somewhat splashy, but maybe not. All right, so here Maria can either limp or raise. She's certainly not going to fold. This is a good spot to raise if you think Poderick, is that how we say his name? If we think Poderick's going to fold or go all in a lot. If you think he's going to call, you don't really want to be raising with Queen 5 offsuit, because Queen 5 offsuit plays quite poorly. If you think your raise will get called very frequently, you want to instead limp. She does raise to a little bit more than 3 big blinds, which is good. You definitely don't want to min raise from the small blind.
Get that.
If you min raise, the big blind is going to call with all sorts of stuff because he's getting 4 or 5 to 1 pot odds, something like that, in position. And you certainly don't want to give your opponent 4 to 1 pot odds in position against you when you have Queen 5 offsuit. So you want to make it a little bit bigger, something like 3 or 3.5 big blinds, and that's going to induce the big blind to fold some hands. Like right there, that King 6 offsuit is a hand you definitely want to continue with. That may seem a little bit splashy or optimistic, but in position, getting even 2 to 1, you can play the King 6 offsuit, no problem.
But he wasn't getting 2 to 1.
He was.
Was he?
He had to put in 2 big blinds to win a total of 6 point something.
You lost me.
All right, Maria raised to 3 big blinds.
Okay.
Okay. So how many more does he have to put in from the big blind?
You lost me.
Oh my God.
Pocket threes, the Larry Bird. This is the kind of analysis I like to do.
What is a Larry Bird?
A Larry Bird is a bird that's very good at basketball.
Okay.
Pocket threes for Adrian Mateos under the gun. He's made it 60,000. Couple of sixes for David Peters.
Oh boy. Mateos may feel inclined to call here, but pocket threes is very similar to the situation where he just had pocket twos where he folded to the all-in.
You guys, look, I got to be honest. When Jonathan said he was getting 2 to 1, I thought he meant exactly 2 to 1. He was getting 2.2.
You lost me.
Well played. Lampropoulos folds the King 10, and Podorek does as well. He's all facing the shove from David Peters.
As you see, again, easy fold. And that's because these small pairs do quite poorly against a reasonable all-in range. While you're flipping a lot of the time, you're dominated by all the other pairs that will go all in. So you just have to get out of the way.
How long till D. Peters gets the tracksuit sponsorship?
He sports them every day.
He's just single-handedly keeping Carhartt in business. He's like ready for leisure to break out at any time.
When I was a kid, I used to have a dream that Larry Bird lived behind me.
So you do know who Larry Bird is?
He plays some sport, I think.
Yes, he does. Well, he did.
Doesn't play anymore?
He's an old man.
I think he's kind of tall. Not so tall, but kind of tall. Taller than me.
Yep, that's true.
That's a cute necklace Podrick has. So now we see Maria getting after it a bit. Queen 9 is certainly a fine hand to raise, especially when you're the chip leader. You just have to be careful opening into Mateos's big blind now that he has chips, because he's going to defend really wide. I don't really think that's what you want, but I would still open the Queen 9 offsuit.
Kupla 8s for Kupel.
There's a classic clip from the PCA where Havad Khan says, "I'm good at basketball." It's really funny, if anyone's ever seen it.
There's the 3-bet.
Maybe the crew can find that.
From Daniel Kupel.
He's just standing there. It's like, "I'm good at basketball." Oh, man.
He was a big dude. You could probably box out. Do people still box out in basketball? Is that still a thing?
You lost me.
I know it's all about the slam dunks these days.
So Maria could be a little bit maniacal here. She feels inclined. This is a relatively big 3-bet. Her 65,000 raise got re-raised to 190,000. It's probably not the best hand to call with, but she may just decide to call in position. Who knows? I don't know what. You can really go either way with this hand. I think fold is probably just standard, though.
Same situation.
She is finger and chips. No, I saw how many chips you had. I just wanted you to move a little.
One somewhat reliable tell you can get on people is that very often they will only ask to see the opponent's chips when they're either bluffing or value betting. You don't know which until you see it. But if you can find something like that, that is incredibly reliable. So, everyone who's been watching for the last 4 days now, you can ask yourself, how have we seen Maria playing previously? Has she done that before ever with a value bet? Maybe she has, maybe she hasn't.
4-bet alert, 420,000. Smoke them if you got them.
What a rough spot for eights. It feels so nasty to 5-bet all in for about 50 big blinds to start and then just be out of the tournament. But here, it would work. I'm a pretty big fan of having a plan ahead of time whenever you do 3-bet these pocket eights.
Okay.
Like knowing if she 4-bets, I am going all in almost every time unless something ridiculous happens. Or knowing that you can easily fold. And the problem with pocket eights is that you can't ever really easily fold against someone who's aggressive. Like right here, you see she has queen-9 offsuit. Folding would be a disaster. So if you think you're going to be put in a difficult spot some portion of the time, like a reasonable portion of the time, you're usually much better off just calling. You see the glasses removed. That's probably a tell, too.
It's probably a tell him that he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, he's like, He's trying to make a read. Can't see through his glasses.
Either that or he just found a dead body at the beginning of CSI Miami. Wow!
If you're going to wear sunglasses.
Now that's what I like to call drawing dead. Wow! Foldsville.
He looks so pissed.
Maria Lampropoulos gets away with one there with some pure aggression pre-flop.
Yeah, usually the removing of the sunglasses means I'm folding now. But if you can't see through your sunglasses, you should probably get different sunglasses. It's a pro tip for everyone out there.
How impressive is Maria Lampropoulos, huh?
She plays like this other guy named Ivan Luka I've seen around. They both play really, really aggressively.
I've heard of him.
Maybe they're friends. He looks kind of mean and angry. She just looks nice and friendly. But they both take your money.
I think they're both pretty intimidating, I'm not going to lie.
She looks so nice.
I don't...
You don't think so?
No.
All right.
I mean, I don't think she looks like a mean person. But there's nothing about her at the poker table that's, like, not intimidating.
I don't even know how to reply to you.
Do
you get intimidated when you play poker?
You don't always have to. Yes, I do.
I don't really get intimidated.
Well, that would explain why you're a WPT champion, former WPT champion, and I'm a former WPT viewer.
Yeah, yeah. 2-time champion, actually.
Really?
Ooh, take that.
I probably knew that at some point.
Got to get in the brags where we can.
You know, I thought they kind of jumped the shark when the Royal Flush girls started solving crimes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. They've had some fun decisions there.
This hand raised by Adrian Mateus, small to big blind. Peters defended, king nine, still the best hand. This is one of those hands that we could see get out of hand real quick. Two players who do not like to fold.
It's funny because if this is a hand between just two somewhat tight amateurs, it just goes bet fold, the hand's over. Or maybe they just check down, who knows. But these two players, for all we know, David Peters is going to call the flop, maybe raise the flop. Who knows what he's going to do? Who knows what Mateus is going to do? I mean, Mateus here just has absolute garbage, so I imagine he's going to be done with this. This is a spot, though. Notice that David Peters cannot fold. It may seem crazy to say you got to call with king high, but Mateus bet very small on the flop. And Peters has to ask himself, will I realize 20% equity to justify calling? And you will with king high in position, even against a great player. So now, does Mateus go for it? I think, well, he has a pair now. I'm sorry, I was reading the board wrong. I thought he had a gut shot. With a pair now, does he need to continue value betting?
With a pair, he's very happy to get to showdown, yeah?
Well, he's either going to value bet or check. And if he value bets, it's usually going to be very small because it's still trying to extract value. The one problem with checking is that if you check and David Peters bets the turn and the river, you're in a pretty nasty spot. Whereas if you bet small on the turn and then check the river, you can somewhat easily check call. Again, the problem with that, though, is that David Peters may just raise your turn bet and put you in a miserable spot. But I think here, just check through, and wow.
Who boy?
David Peters, he's just the luckiest person today.
He's the luckiest person in this hand.
Right, okay. Those are different things, I suppose.
Although he did start with the best of it.
Mateus really just didn't want to see an ace, a king, a jack, a 10, or a 9. It's a lot of cards. All those cards are particularly bad for Mateus on the river, which is one of the reasons to keep betting, to make your opponent fold out random stuff like king 9.
Would a queen have been bad too?
Yeah, you're pretty unhappy with the queen. Good call.
You don't like a queen.
Good board reading.
Yeah.
I missed it.
Hey, buddy, look, that's what we're here. We're here to lift each other up.
Wow. Well, if you are going to bet for value, you want to bet small. This is a situation where you can bet small and sometimes get called by ace high. Sometimes get called by pocket 2s or 3s.
You ever get called by jack high?
Probably not.
Boy, that's pretty thin then, huh?
It's a thin one. This is a spot, though. Some people view this as a classic blocker bet, where you bet small so that if you're beat and your opponent calls, that's going to be less than if you check and your opponent bets pot or something like that, and then you call, then you end up losing more money. So now we're just trying to figure out if David Peters thinks his hand's good enough to raise for value. And again, this is something you'll never see from lesser quality poker players, or maybe you always see it from them where there's always blasted with top pair, who knows. But when your opponent bets small like this, usually their range is a medium strength hand, like a queen or pocket 6s.
Not usually something this thin. I mean, this value bet's so thin, it's got a thigh gap.
I don't know what that means. Your jokes are just so much
You're killing me,
above
Smalls.
my head, man.
You're killing me, Smalls.
When I don't know what you mean, I'm just going to not reply.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. David Peters does go for the raise, and now this puts Mateus in a pretty rough spot because notice here, Jack 10, Jack 9, and 10-9 all missed. And those are very obvious hands Peters would play this way. Peters may bet the turn with those hands, so maybe those don't exist in his range. They probably don't exist, actually, so you can discount those for sure. So what other bluffs are there in Peters' range that make logical sense? I don't even know. Is he going to raise with ace high? Probably not.
Can't re-raise VI Peters. I mean, you can sort of, and Mateus eventually makes the right fold.
That's an interesting spot on the river. Mainly because I would always assume Peters would bluff the turn with his gut shot straight draws.
I agree with Mark from CT2, who says Peters is awesome.
Yes, he is. And notice he's lost almost every pot today. But because he had such a nice chip lead coming in today, he still has 30-something big blinds, 36 big blinds. So that is part of the benefit of having a big stack. You get to lose every pot and still be hanging around. But hey, he finally won one, so he's on an upswing.
He was the short man at this table just a few hands ago. Now he's clawed his way up. He's got 2 players below him now, Podorek and Titov.
One thing you'll notice is that it seems like Mateos and Peters are playing more of the pots as opposed to other players. And what happens is even if they break even against each other, they're winning the blinds and antes. They're chopping that up amongst them every time they both enter the pot. And if you chop up those blinds and antes more than other people and just break even on all your hands, you're going to slowly chip up, whereas everybody else slowly chips down.
It's fair. You guys checking out the crawl down there? Just the literal matter of today's free roll we got to tell you about. Saturday Sauce.
It's a saucy name.
It is a saucy name. I'm going to have some Saturday Sauce if we make it to the player party later. The password is Hermes. No, not that. Hermes with an M.
I was confused for a second.
People out there.
Yeah, 800. 850.
That free roll starts at 5:15 local time.
Do you know what Hermes was the god of?
Hermes was the god of... Is Hermes the same, is the messenger god, right?
Yeah, the god of purses.
Hence the messenger bag.
Yeah, I don't know what he's the god of.
Oh, are you just making that up?
I was asking you.
Hermes was a character from Futurama. Set of 9s here for Podorek. Not much to write home about for Peters. You know, I love mythology. Hermes is the god of fashion accessories. That is true. He was the emissary, the messenger of the gods, and also the divine trickster. Oh, I'm so good.
You are good.
I'm so good with my Greek mythology.
You're kind of like Hermes. You're the messenger to all these people, and you're the trickster.
He is not incredibly well hung. Another way.
Oh, what a cute little guy.
Another similarity.
You can search yourself on Wikipedia. See a cute little guy.
I can talk about it because it's art. Just like David Peters' poker is an art.
Similar but different.
Yeah, he was Mercury. That's right. Hermes is the... See, I was going to say all that. He had the winged feet. Anyway, that's your password.
It's way better than Temple yesterday. I'm excited for tomorrow. I wonder what it's going to be.
Bannatyne on Twitch says Hermes was good friends with Jeff, the god of biscuits. I don't remember Jeff. Seems like he'd be a cool god, though. Jeff would definitely take a relaxed attitude toward godding. This is our feature table chip count.
Maria, the chip leader still. 74 big blinds. That's a lot of chips.
12 total players remain. We are playing down to 6 today.
It's going to be a long day. I can already tell you. What's going to happen at the other table is most likely Corey, the big stack, is going to bust a few players. We're going to be down to maybe 9, and then it's just going to be a slow grind down to 6. Because there are going to be a bunch of medium stacks, and we're going to be here forever. So buckle up. We're not getting to go to the players' party, and we're going to hang out with you all day.
David Peters raising it from the button. Jack 9. I've been hearing a lot about Titov. Ooh, this looks like a Titov kind of hand.
That's an all-in for him, for sure.
He is all insies.
Good shove.
Yeah, all in.
To the person on Twitch saying that Achilles had winged feet. Wrong.
Twitch fish, am I right?
Achilles was a man, not a god.
He had a weak heel.
You know why he had a weak heel?
Because his mother dipped him inappropriately.
Correct.
And the river, is it called Styx? Styx, yeah.
Styx is the underworld river. I do not believe it was the river Styx.
I think it was.
All right, here we go.
Let's go. Let's see. How good do we know our mythology? from watching Disney's
Yes,
Hercules.
it was the river sticks. Well done, Jonathan.
Thank you.
I apologize.
It's okay. Can't be right all the time. What else do you like about mythology?
I like all mythology in general. I took Latin for 4 years in high school. There's a lot of mythology involved in that.
I think Achilles, his foot got hurt at Troy. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Took an arrow to the knee, or, you know, heel.
Yeah, knee would have been fine.
Jack for Kupel. Oh boy, ace queen for Peters.
Here we go, buckle up. We are almost certainly going to see all the money go in. Unless David Peters calls, which he may, because Kupel raised under the gun. And he does just call. If Kupel raised from later position, David Peters would have been re-raising in that spot. But as it sits here, I definitely like his call. I'm a big fan of not 3-betting early position raisers.
Jonathan, I gotta tell you to hold off there for a second, because Titov, he likes to pop off at any old ace. Indeed.
Here they go.
David Peters has slyly just called.
Well, the unfortunate thing for David Peters is that if Titov goes all in, Kupel's going to go all in, and then David Peters is probably going to have to fold.
Making his just call seem absolutely genius.
Well, no, because he's crushing him. Wow, good fold there by Titov. I like that a lot.
Don't know how he found the fold there when he found the all-in button on so many other occasions, but hey.
He knows what he's doing, the under-the-gun raise. You gotta fear that under-the-gun raise.
Sometimes it's all about the live reads. There goes a jack. All right. Jack's looking good on this 10-high flop.
It's really a pretty bad flop for David Peters. Because you lose to all the random hands like Jack-9 that decided to raise from early position. You also lose to, well, Ace-King still. You're really only beating just the random unpaired overcards, but even then, those hands have some equity. So we have a 100K bet from Kupel. Peters may stick around for the turn, and he does. You do need to be somewhat sticky in position in general.
4 on the turn. Do we think that Kupel may bet a bigger portion of the pot now that Jacks are very likely to be safe on this board?
Well, if you look at the pot size, 425K. If he's going to bet, it's with the idea of betting the turn and betting the river all in.
Well, he did not bet the turn at all.
So now he's going to induce the bluff, which is perfectly fine. But if he did bet, he needs to bet something like 200K. That would make the pot go up to 800K if Peters calls, and they'll have a 600K bet behind for a 3/4 pot river all in. So you don't really need to go big there. Quite often your stack size dictates how much you should bet, not necessarily the strength of your hand. So Peters decides to just check it down. If he gets checked to again, he may opt to bluff the river, but I don't know if anyone's going to fold a pair. So I guess you're just supposed to check it. If Kupel bets the river, Peters may make a hero call. I bet if Kupel bets big, that may actually make Peters even more inclined to hero call, as opposed to a smaller bet here. Wow, and he does go for the big bet.
That's a stack of greens. Those are worth 25K each. 275 into a pot of 425, well over half the pot.
This is a weird spot because neither player should have a 3, or very few 3s at least. So I don't know if jamming makes a lot of sense. Whenever you are in this scenario, always just ask, should I be hero calling first off? And if I should not be hero calling, maybe all in's actually better, because then you can make your opponent fold out a 9 or maybe ace-king or maybe a 10.
Why can't you just fold?
You can fold too. Folding's fine. David Peters doesn't like folding though.
Wave Mode on Twitch says, if he calls this, I will cry.
Get your crying shoes on.
I Love Stars says, I like it a lot. ZSM says, R.I.P. V.I. Peters.
If he does jam, I think Kupel just has to call with the jacks. It would be a really horrible spot, though.
Let's save. Let's save the jam. I know that jamming is a possibility, but let's save the drama of the jam.
Always got to plan ahead, Joe.
Happens.
Right here, though, I think this is a better hero call hand than a all-in hand because you don't have any spades, which means that Kupel could just have a bunch of busted flush draws. So that should make you more inclined to call, I think. Or fold. Folding's fine. You're allowed to fold. Peters usually doesn't think so long. And when you think long, you think wrong. What do you think's going through his head, Joe?
I think that he does not like to fold.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he is seriously considering putting more chips in here. Not just the hero call.
I really don't fault him for calling. It's kind of interesting, like once he does think this long, he's probably going to be less inclined to raise.
Over 2 minutes in the tank.
You have a queen in your hand, which is also, like, I think if you had ace-king here, he'd be way more inclined to hero call than with the queen, because some hands that would obviously play this way, or at least consider playing this way for Kupel would be queen-jack, which has a queen, king-queen, which also has a queen, so you're blocking those, because Peters has a queen.
Ask me what he's thinking again.
What's he thinking?
I think that he's thinking that he better put this tournament to bed soon, otherwise they're going to run out of little sparklers on the bottle service, and he hates that.
Oh, that's true.
When he orders a bottle and they don't have any sparklers left. That's half the reason he's getting the bottle in the first place. That's why he's VI Peters.
I have seen V Peters at least twice I can remember off the top of my head with a bottle of champagne with sparklers.
I'm going to look deep into those sparklers later. I'm going to cause permanent eye damage.
Don't do that to yourself.
Staring at VI Peters' bottle later. Miles Teller, cool, calm, collected. Probably not too worried.
Kupel seems pretty chill here. I would so love it if Peters decides to go all in after this 4-minute tank. That'd be hilarious. Oh, man. The reason this is just not such an easy fold is because Kupel probably isn't going for such thin value against Peters. So it means he's either betting a very strong hand or a bluff, and there are a lot of bluffs available. The problem, though, is that he may just bet the turn with them. Like, say he does have queen-jack, he's probably just going to keep betting. If he has king-queen, he's probably going to keep betting. So when he doesn't bet the turn, it takes some of those out of his range. So that's probably going to weight him a little bit towards value in my eyes. But David Peters probably knows his opponent better than I do. So
4.5 minutes on this decision.
Usually that is a sign of extreme strength.
Or extreme thirst.
He's actually probably super nervous. But I think after this long tank, he has to assume he has the best hand. He probably assumes Peter has some 9s or pocket 8s or something like that. Could you imagine watching this without hole cards face up?
Peters calls.
Yeah.
I know.
Calls. Calls the bet. The river value bet from Miles Teller ends up with a case of whiplash.
That's a tough spot for Peters, and I certainly don't fault his call.
We got something to look at over at the other table. There's still another table in play here, kiddies. We have got an all-in and at risk from John West. He is on his feet. He's got 9-7. Corey Aldemir with queen 10.
Wow.
Oh, boy. A flush versus 2-pair.
If Corey wins this pot, he's going to have all the chips.
King is no help to John West. He is going to need to boat up. not a boat. 3 pair, no good. John West.
He had a lot of chips there, too. It looks like about 2 million.
He is eliminated in 12th place. The sun is setting on Jonathan West. Just 11 players remain, and we are going to check out those chip counts. Jonathan Little, Corey Aldemir, 5.5 million chips, 185 big blinds, just 5 players at that table. Guess what? The 4 other players combined don't have as many chips as Corey Aldemir. Now you're all in big